Hi, good morning. So, as mentioned, the next panel is going to focus on the perspective of foreign banks in the startups industry in Israel in fintech. And I would like to invite our panelists, Peter Vetmansky, Head of Strategy of Pekao, please. Andre Galik, Head of Mobile and E-commerce at Ceska Storytelna, it's part of the Erste Group, and Pavel Kerbets, Head of Online Business and Online Business at Home Credit International. Thank you. Good morning. Hi. So my first question is, what are foreign banks, what are you looking for in the Israeli startups industry in fintech in Israel? And more specifically, are there some technologies or solutions that you are more focused on or more interested in? Maybe we start with you, Andre.
Okay. Hi, ready. Well, I'm not looking for specific technologies to start with. Working with fintechs or generally startups, because I'm not always sure what makes fintech a fintech. You can make also other companies to actually become fintech just because you connected with financial services, like advisory for how to grow a company, where to open a branch, etc. And now you're in becoming a fintech, and you've been perhaps a technology cloud provider or something like that before. So what I'm looking for most of the time is sort of a wow factor when you realize that someone has come up with a service that's pretty simple. It hasn't been possible to build it before, and somehow the constellation or the serendipity or whatever you want to call it makes this opportunity sort of attractive. It's like when you meet a partner and you start dating, you know, there's something, some chemistry actually going on. So this is one thing. The other thing is probably the market potential. As I'm also mentoring and advising startups for Google Developers Launchpad, there's so many companies that have this micro niche markets, and it's just too small to actually invest energy into. So I'm also looking for something that has real potential to impact really many customers. As being from the largest retail bank in Czech Republic, this is something that's sort of very natural to me to actually help many people. And that's probably two priorities for me personally.
Pavel, you want to add something?
Okay, for me, it's going to be probably more straightforward. We are looking at companies which are working with data. We believe that data is the new oil. You know, if you look 40 years back, the companies which were the most profitable in the world were always somehow connected with drilling the oil from the earth. I think that's over nowadays. Data is the new oil. We are looking for companies which are able to distill the knowledge from the data. We used to say, I used to work for IBM Research in the past, and we used to say there is no data like more data. And we are in this stage already, so now we need smart algorithms or smart modules which allow us to distill the knowledge, which is going to later on be used for faster and better underwriting of loans, or for a better recommendation engine inside of the bank so that you can cross-sell the customer to something else. We are really looking into this data field.
Very nice. Remember this, data is the oil of technology. And Peter, do you want to add something?
Sure. So I think the answer to this question is really a function of two things. Firstly, why are we here? Why are we spending time and money going to fintech conferences? And I think all of us do it a lot of the time. And secondly, why are we here, particularly in Israel, looking at some of the great Israeli companies? So I think the answer to the first question, and that kind of drives what are we looking for. So on the answer to the first question, I think is we have a little bit of the FOMO. So Darrell, I think you were right. We are missing out on stuff. We are a little anxious and curious on how we can improve that. So banks traditionally have been monopolists of the financial domain. Some time ago, some time ago, it's no longer true. Not only banks doing the banking stuff. Then customer experience. So that's gone too. We are no longer the best in class in terms of customer experience as an industry, and then just the scale remains, or balance sheet, but that's not true either these days, because if you think of the, WhatsApp serves something around 250 million customers in India. So the minute they decide to go into banking, the minute we lose all of the customers there. So a great example of that is Kakao Bank in Asia. They've been able to acquire 2 million customers over the span of 2 weeks. So that's something that traditionally banks haven't been able to. And so how can we prove as an industry that we are alive, well, and better integrated and prepared for that challenges? And I think the only answer is via partnerships, via connecting with these platforms and building an ecosystem. To give you an example, Alibaba mentions the word ecosystem 95 times in the annual reports in 2016. So that means that people are interested not in specific products, but looking very much carefully about customer journeys, what they ultimately want. And now why are we here in Israel? That's really important, because when we look at the landscape of fintech, we increasingly see that Poland, for instance, is a very well digitalized market. It's one of the market leaders in digitalization in banking sector, and looking towards the developed Western European countries and US, we see a similar trend. But what they do is they re-engineer stuff. They make small progresses and improvements, systemic technological changes like blockchain, AI, and some of the Rector stuff. But if you want to truly change, you need to stop re-engineering stuff, and you need to start reimagining stuff. So thinking from scratch, thinking how the bank could look like if you started with a blank paper. And this is something that emerging markets are much better positioned to do so.
Okay, thank you. What is the profile of Israeli startups you like to do business with, and what is your preferred business model, please?
Well, I believe we are not really ready to actually buy them right now. I'm always looking for a sort of synergy models. So we follow two paths. So the first one, we are, as the whole Erste Group, we're actually building a platform that should enable fintech startups to reach all our customers in all the countries where we are present. We're opening APIs in all those banks. We are opening a sort of fintech cloud that should give them actually the space and the place where they can run and operate safely their services and reach all the audience that we can reach. So this is one model, and that should be open basically to any fintech that actually wants to follow this path. The other one is working with fintechs that actually sort of combine services with our services, so we build something together. And this is basically very ad hoc in how we want to collaborate, whether it's white labeling their solution, whether it's basically just distributing the services with their brand, and we are just using our brand or internet banking or anything else as the distribution channel, or it's working on the lower level to actually building our own core capability. And this is always very different in all senses that cover the business model. So it's very difficult to be specific there.
Okay, Pavel, do you have a different
opinion? We in Home Credit, we operate in Asia. We operate in the biggest countries of the world. So when looking at fintechs which are of interest to us, first of all, we invest into them. So from time to time, we buy a share in a promising fintech, and the rule is that the fintech has always to be relevant to the business which we are doing. We are doing consumer loans, and thus we always want to invest into something which is gonna immediately show some kind of an impact. Either it is gonna allow us to underwrite the loan faster, or it will simplify the process. So it always has to have an immediate effect. And of course, as I said before, we are looking at the companies which are somehow playing with data, but again, leading to the same goal.
But what about the stage of the company?
Okay, the stage of the company, we are not looking at companies which are valuated with billions of dollars, right? I mean, we are looking on companies who have a product, and which have a product or module which can be integrated into what we are doing.
Including
So
beta stage?
I think we are ready to be the first implementation. But something has to exist, right? I mean, we are not ready to invest into a fintech startup which has just a good idea. No, we want to have something done.
So, and YouTube beta stage is okay?
Yes,
Sufficient?
it would be possible to build it together. Yes.
And Peter, what is your opinion?
So as Bank Michal, I think we're looking for startups and fintechs that are accelerating our progress towards our strategic goals. That means startups that have a very clear business model, well-defined product, and are able to integrate well. So we need some flexibility in developing or co-developing with us a bespoke solution in a partnership mode to build our ecosystem.
Okay. My next question is, from your perspective, is there a certain technology that you think is really promising and you would recommend Israeli entrepreneurs to focus on? Given your wide perspective on solutions and technologies that your institutions require and so forth, looking at the future, is there a certain recommendation you could provide Israeli entrepreneurs?
Okay, I'll take it. I think all of us have seen how machine learning has exploded in the recent years. And I think that in fintech and generally in the banking sector, machine learning and artificial intelligence is still not being used as much as it deserves. With the enormous amount of data which is available, I think there is a good marriage between the big data and new machine learning algorithms, the enormous computer power which is available. So if I would be a CEO of a fintech in Israel, I would definitely go into this direction.
Thank you.
I think I would focus on two things. Firstly, trying to pinpoint the product which is really the most painful customer journey for a customer. So if you think of some of the developments that happen, there's been still gaps and spaces that haven't really been addressed by fintechs. For example, if you think about mortgage products, these typically are things where we don't see many developments, and they really could make a major difference for a customer if they were more digitalized and agile. The other thing is inventing new channels of interfacing with the customer, so providing technology that we can leverage in order to be there through text messages, through messengers of sorts.
Thank you. And last question because we ran out of time. How do you compare the Israeli startups industry in fintech to, for example, London and New York, which are also very big hubs in fintech? But please, very short answer.
Well, okay, I have a mentor, and he's actually from Israel, and he keeps repeating one sentence over and over to me: move faster. Whatever I do, his answer is move faster. This is something that I actually see here pretty much with all the history, etc. So to me, it's actually a very attractive area to be, and I think that we can see it also in fintechs. So that's the reason.
Well, for me, if I go to London or New York to the similar fintech conference like here, The biggest difference is going to be that there is going to be less Hebrew language there, and I will be able to understand more.
For me, the major difference is that I think here Israel was very successful at making Fintechs. They export products. They focus on very well-defined segments and not major systemic changes which are hard to adapt for us.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.